Harold and Brad Replay. This is our pilot episode featuring Harold Dennis. Originally aired April 21st, 2020.
Knocking it out, man. We'll see. What's going on, y'all? This is Bradford S. Stevens and
Harold Dennis.
We in the house. This is the debut, the pilot episode for our podcast, Harold and Brad, Windy City Filmmakers. And it's just about that filmmaking, about filmmakers from Chicago who are doing other stuff here and other places as well. So, gonna kick things off by talking a little bit about ourselves. So, we've been knowing each other for a minute, right?
Yeah, we've been knowing each other for over a couple decades, and we've been steadily doing our thing and finding time to work together.
No doubt. So we'll start with HD. HD, Harold Dennis, hardest working actor in Chicago. So tell us a little bit about yourself, man. Where are you from originally?
I was born in Naples, Florida, and was here in Chicago at the age of 1. So I've been here pretty much my whole life. And yeah, that's where I was from. But I grew up here on the south side of Chicago, moved around a lot, but it was always the south side of Chicago and Mississippi and different places.
Mississippi? Yeah. No doubt. Okay, so what's some of the first things that got you into acting? Because we're talking about acting, filmmaking, whole 9 yards. What really drew you to being an actor?
Well, let's start at the very beginning. When I was in second grade, I was invited to be in the Thanksgiving play on stage with my little suit on. I got on stage, and I remember sitting there on stage and forgot my lines. And I thought to myself, this isn't for me. And that was that.
Right.
And then later, my father has a sister, Marion Roll, and she was doing plays off Broadway and overseas in Edinburgh, London, all over the place. A one-woman show called Desiree. And so I used to hear about that later. And, you know, growing up here on the south side of Chicago, I didn't know any of the people that I saw on TV and in the movies. So that was impossible. But hearing about her, then later, so it stayed in the back of my mind. Later, after high school, I had a high school band teacher named John Watson Sr. He popped up in movies. You know, he's from the South Side, lived in Chicago. He passed in 2006. And so he ended up in The Fugitive, Groundhog Day, Hoodlum, Soul Food, the movie.
Nice.
If anybody remembers Soul Food, the movie.
Oh, yeah.
Remembers Soul Food. He was the old guy that came out with the money at the end of the movie. He was Uncle Pete. He used to stay up in the room. And that was my high school band teacher. And he had lines with Harrison Ford in The Fugitive. And so that blew my mind. I was like, Mr. Watson is in Chicago. He's not on the coast. He doesn't live in L.A. or New York.
Right.
How's he in these Hollywood movies? And so when I saw that, I was like, this isn't impossible. And so I was immediately interested in learning more and doing it myself. So I was like, if Mr. Watson is doing it, I can do it too. And so I started doing extra work in 1997. I was hearing this on B96, this commercial saying, be an extra in the movies, be an extra in the movies, be an extra in the movies. I heard it so much that finally I wrote the number down and applied. And I sent my Polaroid picture back. This was actually 1997, around this time.
No doubt.
When I was applying.
Yeah.
And so I sent it in, and finally they called me. And I remember I was an extra on this show that came on CBS called Early Edition.
Oh, yeah, I remember Early Edition, yeah.
And I was featured out the gate where they put the camera in my face and down the side and way down the other side. And the shot they used, and before that, I called all of my family all over the country. He says, I'm going to be on TV. Tune in. I'm going to be on TV. And so everybody's watching. I'm watching. And then they used that shot way down on the other end. And so they had half my face for that amount of time. And I remember saying to myself, this is some bullshit. and then my sister that was in California at the time, she called me and says, I saw you. I was like, so I was talking to my buddy Kenny. I was talking to Kenny.
Right.
And I says, I want to do more. I want to do more. And he says, well, why don't you take an acting class? I was like, that's a good idea. Where?
Right.
And he says, well, me and Carl, we had taken classes over at ETA and studied with Harold Okoro Johnson.
ETA, great place, man.
Yeah, he's one of my mentors.
Yeah.
And Mr. Watson was one of my mentors. That's why when I saw him doing it, I was like, oh, this is a possible thing. Because I was in the band back in high school with Mr. Watson. I played trumpet all 4 years. He was my teacher for 3 of those years, and because he came my sophomore year, and I was the lead trumpet. All the other trumpet players with talent graduated, and so that was me standing along with the other guys. And Mr. Watson had us audition for the lead chair, and I got it. And then later he says, my junior year, he says, why don't you go apply for the All-City Concert Band? I says, you think I can make that? He says, yeah, you can make it go. And I went and made the All-City Concert Band when we played every Saturday, practice every Saturday. And my senior year, he says, go out for the All-City Jazz Band. I'm like, get out of here. He says, you'll make it. I went down there and made the All-City Jazz Band. And Mr. Watson used to get us paid doing summer cedar jobs, playing our instruments. And I was like, wow, we're getting paid to play instruments over at Chicago State. It was real cool back then.
Right.
And so he was a mentor. He used to tell us, practice, 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 take care of your family, all types of things. And so getting back to Okoro, I took that class over at ETA August of 1998. And
You're good, man. You be remembering dates, man.
Yeah.
I love it.
I know that you was with them and you took the class the year before, right?
Right. Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
And so I sat there in that first class with Okoro, and it was I caught the class just in time too. It was August, and they had one class already that I'd missed. And I went in to sit in on the next class to see if I liked it. And I sat there after that class was over, and I had the little $300 in my pocket to pay for the class.
No doubt.
Which ran for a school year from August to April, May. After that first class, I was like, I'm going to do this the rest of my life.
That's what's up, man. That's what's up.
That's how much Okoro affected me.
Yeah.
And so.
Rest in peace, Okoro.
Rest in peace. And so a couple weeks in, Okoro said to the class, he was looking at one guy. He wasn't looking at me. He looked at this guy and says, there are no men in the advanced class.
Right.
Our class beginning was on Tuesday nights. The advanced class was Wednesday night. And so the guy didn't say anything and we didn't either. So the following week, Okoro looked at the same guy again and says, there are no men in the advanced class and we need men in the advanced class. And the guy looked at him and raised his hand and said to Okoro, I don't have another $300. And Okoro said, don't worry about that. I was like, I'm there. I'm there. I got excited. I was like, I can take 2 classes.
Right.
And so I did. That's how I got started, taking those 2 classes. And I was in heaven, Tuesday and Wednesday nights, heaven.
Thanks for listening to Harold and Brad Replay. Check out the full episode right here on YouTube. And be on the lookout for new interviews with amazing artists.